Captain Jake Morrison stared through the viewport of the USS Liberty as the massive alien ship came into view. The vessel was 3 times larger than his own ship and covered in strange metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Jake had been exploring space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Captain, they're sending us a message," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. She was the ship's communication officer and one of Jake's most trusted crew members. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display flickered and showed a tall alien creature with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, the translation system made its voice sound cold and harsh. "Human vessel, I am High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered our space without permission. You will come aboard our ship for a meeting. This is not a request." Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed nervous. The alien ship was clearly much more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Its weapons could probably destroy the Liberty in seconds. "We accept your invitation," Jake replied. "We come in peace and hope to discuss this matter calmly." The alien commander's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Peace. Yes, we will discuss peace. Bring 5 of your crew members. Leave your weapons behind." The connection ended, and Jake felt his stomach tighten. Leaving weapons behind when meeting unknown aliens seemed like a terrible idea. But they had no choice. The alien ship could easily destroy them if they refused. "Amy, pick 3 security officers to come with us. Make sure they're our best people," Jake said. "Sir, what about weapons?" Amy asked. "We follow their rules for now, but make sure everyone carries emergency equipment, just in case." 2 hours later, Jake and his team stepped into the alien ship through a docking tube. The inside was even more impressive than the outside. The walls seemed to be made of living metal that changed colors as they walked. Strange lights floated. In the air, without any visible source of power, a group of Zephyrian soldiers met them at the entrance. These aliens were shorter than the commander, but still taller than most humans. They wore armor that looked like it was made of the same glowing metal as their ship. "Follow us," one of the soldiers said in perfect English. "The High Commander is waiting." They walked through long corridors filled with technology that Jake couldn't even begin to understand. Screens showed star maps and alien writing. Machines hummed with power that seemed almost alive. The meeting room was huge with a table that could seat 50 people. High Commander Veltar sat at the far end with several other alien officers. Jake noticed that all the aliens carried weapons that looked like advanced energy guns. "Sit," Veltar commanded, pointing to chairs on the opposite side of the table. Jake and his team took their seats. Amy sat next to him while the 3 security officers, Sergeants Danny Rodriguez, Tony Martinez, and Steve Clark, spread out along the table. "Before we begin," Veltar said, "my weapons specialist will examine your equipment. We must know what primitive tools you carry." A smaller alien with 6 arms approached their group. This was Sub-Commander Crix, according to the name tag on his armor. He looked excited as he began scanning the humans with a handheld device. "Commander," Crix said with obvious amusement, "they carry projectile weapons, actual bullets fired by chemical explosives." The other aliens around the table began making sounds that the translation system called laughter. Veltar's 4 eyes seemed to sparkle with humor. "Show me these weapons," Veltar ordered. Jake nodded to his security team. Slowly and carefully they placed their sidearms on the table. The guns looked small and primitive next to all the alien technology in the room. Crix picked up Danny's pistol and examined it closely. "This fires small metal projectiles using exploding powder," he announced to the room. "The projectiles travel at perhaps 400 meters per second." The laughter grew louder. One alien officer made a comment that the translator couldn't handle, but the tone was clearly mocking. "May I demonstrate why these weapons are useless against us?" Crix asked his commander. Veltar nodded. "Please do. Our human guests should understand their situation." Crix activated a device on his belt and a shimmering blue field appeared around him. It looked like he was standing inside a soap bubble made of light. This is a personal shield, Crix explained. It protects against all forms of attack. Watch. He picked up Danny's gun and pointed it at his own chest. The humans all tensed, but Crix just smiled and pulled the trigger. The bullet fired and hit the shield. There was a bright flash and the bullet simply bounced away, completely harmless. It clattered to the floor without even scratching Crix's armor. Your turn, Crix said, handing the gun back to Danny. Please shoot me. Danny looked at Jake, who nodded slowly. Danny aimed carefully and fired 3 quick shots. Each bullet hit the alien's shield and bounced away like it had hit solid steel. Fascinating, Crix said, picking up one of the flattened bullets from the floor. Your projectiles are made of lead and copper, very soft metals. Even without the shield, our armor would stop them easily. He gestured to another alien who activated his own shield and stepped forward. Try your explosive weapons, Crix suggested. Tony Martinez pulled out a small grenade. Are you sure about this? He asked nervously. Completely sure, Crix replied. Please throw it at my colleague. Tony pulled the pin and tossed the grenade. It exploded right next to the alien, filling the room with smoke and noise. When the smoke cleared, the alien was still standing there completely unharmed. His shield had absorbed the entire blast. Your chemical explosives are also useless, Crix announced. Even your largest bombs could not penetrate our shields. The room filled with alien laughter again. Jake felt his face burning with embarrassment and anger. They were being treated like children playing with toys. Now you understand, Veltar said, his voice becoming serious. Your species uses weapons that our ancestors abandoned thousands of years ago. You throw metal and exploding chemicals while we command pure energy. He stood up and activated his own weapon. It hummed with power and glowed with the same blue. Light as their shields. He pointed it at the far wall and fired. A beam of energy shot out and melted a hole clean through the metal wall. This is a plasma rifle, Veltar explained. It fires contained fusion reactions. One shot can destroy your entire ship. We have thousands of these weapons, and our ships carry cannons that can crack planets. Jake and his team sat in silence. The demonstration had made their situation very clear. The aliens could destroy all of humanity without any real effort. What do you want from us? Jake asked quietly. Simple, Veltar replied. Your species will stop expanding into space. You will return to your home planet and stay there. In exchange, we will not exterminate you like the pest species you appear to be. And if we refuse? Amy asked. Veltar's expression grew cold. Then we will demonstrate the difference between primitive bullets and advanced energy weapons. Your cities will burn from orbit. Your ships will be destroyed before they can even fire their pathetic guns. Your species will be remembered only as another failed experiment in evolution. Crix held up one of their bullets again. I will keep this as a curiosity, he said with amusement. Future generations will laugh at the species that thought metal projectiles could compete with plasma technology. The meeting ended with Veltar giving humanity 1 month to begin their withdrawal from space. As Jake and his team returned to their ship, they could still hear alien laughter echoing through the corridors back aboard the Liberty. Jake sat in his captain's chair and stared at the alien ship. His crew was quiet and tense. They had just learned that everything they thought they knew about warfare was completely wrong. Captain, Amy said softly, what do we do now? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated the ship's communication system. Get me Admiral Patterson on Earth, he said. Priority 1, tell her we have a problem. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison's meeting with the Zephyrians. The aliens had kept their word about giving humanity time to consider their demands. But that time was now over. Admiral Lisa Patterson stood on the bridge of the battleship USS Freedom, watching her fleet prepare for what everyone knew would be a hopeless fight. 23 human ships faced off against 7 Zephyrian vessels. The alien ships were smaller in number, but each one was the size of a space station. Admiral, the aliens are moving, reported Commander Kevin Walsh from his position at the sensor station. All ships, battle stations, Lisa ordered into her communicator. Remember, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to learn how. Their technology works and buy time for our colonies to evacuate. The first Zephyrian ship opened fire. A beam of blue energy shot across space and hit the destroyer USS Atlanta. The human ship's armor melted like butter. Secondary explosions tore through the Atlanta's hull, and within seconds, the ship was gone. "Return fire," Lisa commanded. The human fleet launched everything they had. Missiles, railgun rounds, and laser beams all struck the alien ships. The weapons hit their targets perfectly, but the Zephyrian shields absorbed every attack without even flickering. Another energy beam lashed out and destroyed the cruiser USS Boston. Then another ship died, and another. The human fleet was being picked apart like toys. "Admiral, we can't even scratch them," Kevin reported, his voice tight with fear. "Keep firing," Lisa replied grimly. "Every second we fight is another second for the evacuation ships to get away." Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Boston, Marine Sergeant Danny Rodriguez was leading the ground defense. He had been promoted after his encounter with the aliens and given command of Alpha Company. Now he crouched behind a concrete barrier as Zephyrian dropships landed in the city center. "Remember what we learned from the captured footage," Danny shouted to his Marines. "Their personal shields work just like their ship shields. Our bullets won't work, but we still have to try to slow them down." The first Zephyrian soldiers stepped out of their ships. They were tall and moved with confidence, their blue armor glowing with shield energy. Each alien carried a plasma rifle that could melt through steel. "Open fire," Danny ordered. 50 Marines opened up with assault rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers. The bullets and explosives struck the alien shields and bounced away harmlessly. The Zephyrians didn't even bother to take cover. They simply walked forward, firing their energy weapons. The first plasma bolt hit Private Johnson and turned him to ash instantly. Another Marine screamed as an energy beam took off his arm. The aliens advanced like they were taking a casual walk. "Fall back to secondary positions," Danny yelled. His Marines retreated through the city streets while the aliens followed at their own pace. There was no hurry. The humans couldn't hurt them. Danny tried everything he could think of. His men dropped buildings on the aliens using explosives. The Zephyrians walked through the rubble without slowing down. They tried hitting them with trucks and construction equipment. The vehicles simply bounced off the shields. "Sarge, this isn't working," said Corporal Amy Foster, one of his squad leaders. "We might as well be throwing rocks at them." "Keep trying," Danny replied, though he knew she was right. "Every minute we hold them here is more time for civilians to escape." Back on Earth, Dr. Patricia Hughes was working frantically in her laboratory deep beneath the Colorado mountains. She was the government's top weapons researcher, and everyone was counting on her to find a solution to the alien shields. "Show me the sensor data again," she said to her assistant, Dr. Nicole Adams. Nicole pulled up the readings from the space battle. The shields seemed to work by creating an energy field that deflects incoming attacks. They analyze the speed, mass, and energy level of whatever hits them, then generate an equal and opposite force. Patricia studied the numbers carefully. She had been looking at this data for weeks, trying to find some weakness in the alien technology. The shields were incredibly advanced, but they had to have some limit. "What about multiple impacts?" she asked. "What happens if you hit the shield with several things at once?" "The data shows the shields can handle multiple impacts easily," Nicole replied. During the battle, one alien ship was hit by over 200 missiles simultaneously. The shield absorbed them all without any problems. Patricia rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working 20-hour days since the crisis began, and she was running out of ideas. The president had made it clear that finding a way to defeat the alien shields was humanity's top priority. "Dr. Hughes," came a voice from behind her. She turned to see Colonel Frank Barnes, the military liaison assigned to her project. Frank was a weapons expert who had served in 3 wars before the aliens arrived. "Any progress?" Frank asked. "Not much," Patricia admitted. "Their shield technology is far beyond anything we have. It's like trying to fight a tank with a bow and arrow. Maybe that's the wrong way to think about it, Frank said. In my experience, sometimes the most advanced weapon can be defeated by something simple and unexpected. Patricia looked at him with interest. What do you mean? Well, those shields are designed to stop our weapons, right? They expect bullets, missiles, energy beams. But what if we gave them something they're not programmed to handle? Before Patricia could respond, an alarm started blaring throughout the facility. A voice came over the intercom. All personnel, report to emergency stations. The Zephyrian fleet has begun orbital bombardment of the eastern colonies. Patricia and her team rushed to the command center where screens showed the horrifying scene. Alien ships hung in orbit above New York, Chicago, and Atlanta, firing energy beams down at the cities below. Entire city blocks disappeared in flashes of blue light. How many casualties? Patricia asked. We don't know yet, replied General Tom Wilson, the facility commander. The evacuation got most people out, but there are still millions in those cities. On the screens, they could see human military units trying to fight back. Tanks fired their main guns at the alien ships far above, but the shots fell short. Fighter jets launched missiles that were destroyed by defensive energy beams before they could reach their targets. It's not working, Patricia said quietly. Nothing we have can touch them. What about the ground forces? Frank asked. Another screen showed the situation in New Boston. Danny Rodriguez and his Marines were still fighting, but they were being pushed back street by street. The aliens advanced steadily, their shields protecting them from every weapon the humans used. Estimated time until the city falls? General Wilson asked. 6 hours, maybe less, replied the intelligence officer. The Marines are fighting hard, but they can't actually hurt the enemy. It's just a matter of time. Patricia watched the battle footage and felt despair settling over her. Brave men and women were dying while she sat in her laboratory, unable to help them. The alien shields were simply too advanced for human technology to overcome, but then something caught her attention. In one piece of footage, she saw a Marine throw a grenade at an alien soldier. The explosion didn't hurt the alien, but for just a moment, the shield flickered. It was barely noticeable, but Patricia's trained eye caught it. Nicole, replay that section, she said urgently. They watched the clip again in slow motion. Sure enough, when the grenade exploded, the alien's shield wavered for a fraction of a second before stabilizing. Did you see that? Patricia asked excitedly. The shield flickered, Nicole confirmed. But why? Patricia's mind was racing. The shield had to process multiple fragments from the explosion. Metal pieces, concrete chunks, all hitting at different angles and speeds. For just a moment it was overwhelmed. But it recovered immediately, Frank pointed out. Yes, but what? If we could make that moment last longer, Patricia said. What if we could give the shield so many different targets that it couldn't process them all? She turned to her computer and began pulling up technical specifications. Nicole, I need you to run simulations on fragmentation patterns. Frank, get me every piece of data we have on alien shield response times. For the first time in months, Patricia felt a spark of hope. The aliens had laughed at human bullets, calling them primitive. But maybe being primitive was exactly what humanity needed. Maybe the oldest weapons in human history were about to become the most important. Dr. Patricia Hughes had not slept in 36 hours. Her eyes were red and her hands shook from too much coffee, but she was closer to a breakthrough than ever before. The underground laboratory buzzed with activity as her team worked around. The clock? Show me the simulation again, Patricia said to Dr. Nicole Adams. Nicole pulled up the computer model on the main screen. It showed an alien shield being hit by a single bullet, which bounced away harmlessly. Then the simulation ran again, but this time the bullet broke apart into dozens of smaller pieces just before hitting the shield. The shield tries to calculate deflection angles for each fragment, Nicole explained. With a single bullet, it's easy. But with 40 or 50 pieces all hitting at different speeds and angles, the processing system gets overloaded. Patricia studied the data carefully. The shield held for about 2 seconds before failing completely. That was not long, but it might be enough. What if we use more fragments? She asked. The computer models show that 100 fragments would overload the shield in half a second, Nicole replied. But there's a problem. We don't know how to make bullets that break apart at exactly the right moment. Colonel Frank Barnes looked up from his desk where he had been studying ammunition specifications. Actually, we might, he said. Back in the old days, hunters used something called frangible bullets. They were designed to break apart when they hit hard targets. Patricia felt excitement building. How do they work? Frank pulled up some technical drawings on his computer. The bullets are made with special materials that shatter on impact. Hunters use them to avoid ricochets when shooting in rocky areas. The bullet hits something hard and explodes into tiny pieces. But we need the bullets to break apart before they hit the shield, not after, Nicole pointed out. Patricia was already thinking ahead. What if we add a small explosive charge to the bullet? Something that goes off just milliseconds before impact? That might work, Frank said slowly. We could use proximity sensors like the ones in anti-aircraft shells. The bullet would detect when it's close to the target and explode into fragments. For the next 12 hours, Patricia's team worked on the design. They took standard rifle bullets and modified them with tiny explosive charges and miniature proximity sensors. The bullets were programmed to explode exactly 3 meters before hitting their target. Let's call them cascade rounds, Patricia said, because they create a cascade of fragments that overwhelms the shield. Their first test was conducted in the laboratory's firing range. They had built a copy of the alien shield technology using captured equipment from the battlefields. It was not as advanced as the real thing, but it worked on the same principles. Dr. Kevin Walsh loaded the first cascade round into a standard rifle and aimed at the shield generator. Here goes nothing, he said, and pulled the trigger. The bullet flew toward the target and exploded right on schedule. Dozens of metal fragments hit the shield from all directions. The blue energy field flickered, sparked, and then collapsed completely. The remaining fragments punched through and destroyed the shield generator. It worked, Nicole shouted. The shield failed. Patricia felt a surge of hope, but she forced herself to stay calm. Run the test again? We need to make sure this wasn't just luck. They fired 10 more cascade rounds at fresh shield generators. 8 of them worked perfectly, overloading the shields and destroying the targets. 2 failed because the proximity sensors malfunctioned, but those could be fixed with better engineering. 80% success rate, Frank noted. That's good enough for field testing. Patricia was already thinking about the next steps. We need to get these rounds to the troops immediately. Every day we wait, more people die? Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was leading a desperate mission behind enemy lines. His ship, the USS Liberty, had been hiding in the asteroid belt for weeks, conducting hit-and-run attacks against Zephyrian supply ships. The attacks were not very successful since human weapons could not penetrate alien shields, but they were learning valuable intelligence. Captain, we're picking up transmissions from the alien fleet, reported Lieutenant Amy Collins from her communications station. What are they saying? Jake asked. Amy listened to her translation equipment for a moment. They're discussing shield power levels. It sounds like their shields use more energy when they're hit by multiple attacks. Jake felt a spark of interest. How much more energy? The aliens are complaining that constant human attacks are draining their power reserves faster than expected. They're having to rotate ships back to their base for recharging. Jake realized this information could be important. He activated the ship's communication system and sent an encoded message to Earth. Alien shields drain power with each impact. Continuous attacks may weaken them over time. The message reached Dr. Hughes just as her team was preparing to test their cascade rounds against a more powerful shield system. This new information gave her another idea. What if we don't just overwhelm the shield with fragments? She said to her team. What if we hit it with multiple cascade rounds in rapid succession? Frank nodded thoughtfully. Like a machine gun firing these special bullets. Each round would create its own fragment cloud, and the shield would have to process hundreds of impacts per second. Exactly, Patricia said. Even if the first round doesn't overload the shield completely, it will weaken it. The second round will weaken it more. By the third or fourth round, the shield should collapse entirely. They modified several assault rifles to fire cascade rounds in full automatic mode. The new ammunition was more expensive than regular bullets, but if it worked, the cost would not matter. The test was conducted against the most powerful shield generator they could build. It was designed to be twice as strong as the shields they had seen on Zephyrian soldiers. Nicole loaded one of the modified rifles with 30 cascade rounds and switched it to full automatic. "Ready when you are," she said. "Fire a short burst," Patricia instructed. 3 or 4 rounds. Nicole pulled. The trigger and the rifle fired 4 bullets in rapid succession. Each bullet exploded into fragments just before hitting the shield. The first impact made the shield flicker. The second made it spark and waver. The third caused visible cracks in the energy field. The fourth shattered it completely. 4 rounds, Frank said with satisfaction. 4 cascade rounds and the shield is gone? Patricia felt like cheering, but there was still work to do. We need to test this against moving targets. Real combat conditions are very different from laboratory tests. The opportunity came sooner than expected. General Wilson received word that a small group of Zephyrian soldiers had landed near Denver to capture human prisoners for interrogation. It was the perfect chance to test the cascade rounds in actual combat. "I want to lead the test myself," said Major Tony Martinez, who had volunteered to be the first soldier to use the new ammunition. Tony had fought against the aliens on New Boston and barely escaped when the city fell. "Absolutely not," Patricia said. "We need experienced soldiers for this test, but we also need to keep you safe. You know more about fighting the aliens than anyone else." "That's exactly why I should go," Tony replied. "I know how they move, how they think. If these bullets are going to work, I want to be the one pulling the trigger." After much discussion, Patricia agreed to let Tony lead a small team of volunteers. They would ambush the alien patrol using the new cascade rounds. If the weapons worked, they would capture alien equipment for further study. If they failed, the team had orders to retreat immediately. The ambush was set up in the mountains outside Denver. Tony and 5 other soldiers hid behind rocks with their modified rifles loaded with cascade rounds. Each rifle carried 40 of the special bullets. "Remember," Tony whispered into his radio, "short bursts only. 3 or 4 rounds per target. We don't know how many shots we'll need." The Zephyrian patrol appeared right on schedule. 6 alien soldiers walked confidently through the mountain pass, their shields glowing blue in the morning sun. They showed no concern about human attacks because human weapons had never been able to hurt them. "Wait for my signal," Tony said quietly. The aliens walked closer. 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. "Now," Tony shouted. 6 rifles opened fire simultaneously. The cascade rounds flew toward their targets and exploded into fragment clouds just before impact. The aliens' shields flickered, sparked, and began to fail. For the first time since the war began, Zephyrian soldiers were taking damage from human weapons. 2 aliens fell immediately as fragments punched through their failed shields. The other 4 tried to return fire, but their weapons were not designed for defensive combat. "Keep firing!" Tony yelled. More cascade rounds hit the remaining aliens. Their shields collapsed one by one, and the fragments tore through their armor. Within 30 seconds, all 6 Zephyrian soldiers were dead. Tony stared at the alien bodies in amazement. After months of hopeless fighting, human weapons had finally worked. The soldiers, who had seemed invincible, were just as vulnerable as anyone else once their shields were down. "Base, this is Tony," he said into his radio. "The test was successful." "Repeat, the test was successful. The new ammunition works." Back in her laboratory, Patricia heard the news and felt tears of relief running down her face. News of the successful test spread through the human military like wildfire. Within hours, every commander in the resistance knew that Dr. Hughes had created a weapon that could actually hurt the aliens. For the first time in months, soldiers began to believe they might have a chance. But Dr. Patricia Hughes knew that killing 6 aliens in an ambush was very different from fighting a real battle. The Cascade rounds worked, but they needed to be perfect before humanity could launch a counterattack. "We need more testing," she told General Wilson as they watched the footage from Tony Martinez's ambush. "Those aliens were caught by surprise and weren't expecting our weapons to work. In a real fight, they'll adapt quickly." General Wilson nodded. "What do you need?" "More live targets," Patricia replied. "We need to test the rounds against aliens who are ready for battle, not just walking patrol." The opportunity came from an unexpected source. Captain Jake Morrison had been monitoring Zephyrian communications from his hiding place in the asteroid belt. His ship's computers had finally cracked more of their military codes. "Admiral Patterson, I have intelligence on an enemy supply depot," Jake reported during a secure transmission to Earth. "It's lightly defended, but the guards will be alert and ready for trouble." Admiral Lisa Patterson was now coordinating all human resistance efforts from a hidden base on the moon. Most of Earth's major cities had been destroyed or captured, and the government had moved to underground bunkers. "How many aliens are we talking about?" Lisa asked. 30 soldiers guarding a fuel station on the asteroid series," Jake replied. "It's far from their main fleet, so reinforcements would take hours to arrive." Patricia saw this as the perfect test. 30 alert aliens in a defensive position would prove whether the Cascade rounds could work in real combat conditions. "I want to lead the assault myself," said Sergeant Danny Rodriguez, who had escaped from New Boston when the city fell. Danny had been promoted again and now commanded a special operations unit. "Absolutely not," Patricia said. "We can't risk losing experienced soldiers if the test fails." "With respect, Doctor, we can't risk sending inexperienced soldiers either," Danny replied. "My team knows how the aliens fight. We've been running and hiding from them for months. If anyone can make this work, it's us." After much debate, Patricia agreed. Danny would lead 20 volunteers armed with the new Cascade rounds against the alien supply depot. Each soldier would carry 200 of the special bullets, and they would have strict orders to retreat if the weapons failed. The mission launched. 3 days later, Danny's team used captured alien shuttles to approach Ceres without being detected. The asteroid was small and rocky, with the fuel depot built into a crater on the surface. "Remember the plan?" Danny whispered to his team as they prepared to attack. "Hit them with everything we have in the first 30 seconds. Don't give them time to adapt or call for help." The assault began at dawn. 20 human soldiers opened fire simultaneously on the alien guards. Hundreds of Cascade rounds flew toward their targets, each one exploding into fragments just before impact. The results were immediate and devastating. Alien shields flickered and failed across the depot. Soldiers who had walked through human attacks for months suddenly found themselves vulnerable to what they had called primitive weapons. But the aliens were not helpless. They quickly realized their shields were failing and began using the depot's buildings for cover. Their plasma rifles could still melt through human armor with ease. "Take cover," Danny shouted as energy beams started flying back at his team. "Don't bunch up. Keep moving and keep firing." The battle turned into a running firefight through the depot's corridors. The humans had the advantage because their weapons could now penetrate alien shields, but the aliens had better armor and more powerful guns. Private Lisa Chun took a plasma bolt to the shoulder and screamed as her armor melted. Corporal Mike Johnson managed to kill 3 aliens before an energy beam took his head off. The humans were taking casualties, but they were also winning. "Their shields are staying down," Danny reported over his radio. "The Cascade rounds are working perfectly." Within an hour, all 30 alien guards were dead. Danny's team had lost 5 soldiers, but they had achieved something that had seemed impossible just days earlier. They had defeated a prepared alien force in direct combat. More importantly, they had captured intact alien equipment, including shield generators, plasma rifles, and communication devices. Dr. Hughes could now study working alien technology instead of just broken pieces from the battlefield. "This changes everything," Patricia said as she examined the captured shield generator. "Now I can see exactly how their technology works." What she discovered was both encouraging and troubling. The alien shields were more advanced than she had, imagined, but they also had weaknesses that could be exploited. The shields operate on multiple frequency bands, she explained to her team. They're designed to stop energy weapons, explosive warheads, and high-velocity projectiles. But they have trouble processing irregular fragments that don't fit their programming. Dr. Nicole Adams pointed to the technical readouts. Look at this. The shield system has built-in limits to prevent overheating. When it gets overwhelmed, it automatically shuts down to protect the generator. How long does it take to restart? Asked Colonel Frank Barnes. 15 seconds, Nicole replied. Once a shield fails, the generator needs 15 seconds to reset and rebuild the energy field. Patricia realized this was crucial information. 15 seconds is long enough for a human soldier to close distance and finish the fight with conventional weapons, but she also realized they had a bigger problem. The Cascade rounds worked perfectly, but they were incredibly expensive and difficult to manufacture. Each bullet required precision engineering and rare materials. The current production rate could only supply a few thousand rounds per week. We need millions of these bullets to arm the entire military, Frank pointed out. At the current rate, it would take years to produce enough. Patricia was already working on a solution. We don't need to arm everyone. We just need to arm enough soldiers to break through alien lines and capture their equipment. Once we have their weapons, we can fight them on equal terms. She began developing a new strategy. Instead of trying to replace all human weapons with Cascade rounds, they would create special assault teams. These teams would use the expensive ammunition to disable alien shields. Then regular infantry would move in with conventional weapons to finish the job. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians were beginning to realize that something had changed. High Commander Veltar received reports of human attacks that were actually causing casualties. Impossible, Veltar said when Subcommander Crix briefed him on the depot attack. Human weapons cannot penetrate our shields. The evidence suggests. Otherwise, Commander, Crix replied nervously. All 30 guards were killed by projectile weapons. Their shields had failed completely. Veltar studied the battle reports with growing concern. For months, his forces had advanced without significant losses. Human weapons had been completely ineffective against Zephyrian technology. Now suddenly humans were killing as soldiers. Perhaps they have developed new energy weapons, suggested another officer. No, Crix said after reviewing the forensic data. The wounds were caused by metal fragments. The humans are still using primitive projectile weapons, but somehow they are now effective against our shields. Veltar felt a chill of worry. If humans had found a way to defeat Zephyrian shields, the entire invasion could be in danger. His forces were vastly outnumbered by humans. They had only succeeded because of their technological advantage. Increase security at all installations, Veltar ordered, and send research teams to study the wreckage from the depot. I want to know exactly how the humans are doing this. But Veltar made a crucial mistake. Instead of pulling his forces back to defensive positions, he decided to accelerate the invasion. He believed that if humans had developed new weapons, the best strategy was to crush their resistance before they could mass-produce them. We will attack Earth directly, Veltar announced to his fleet commanders. The human homeworld will fall within the week. Once their planet is conquered, any new weapons they have developed will be irrelevant. This decision played directly into human hands. Dr. Hughes had been hoping the aliens would concentrate their forces for a major attack. It would give her the chance to test the Cascade rounds against the entire Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Patterson, Patricia said during their daily briefing, our intelligence suggests the aliens are planning a final assault on Earth. How much time do we have? Lisa asked. Maybe a week, Patricia replied, but that might be enough. I've been working on modifications to the Cascade rounds that will make them even more effective. She pulled up her latest designs. The new bullets contain more fragments and better proximity sensors. They also included small amounts of materials that would interfere with alien shield frequencies. These new rounds have a 95% success rate against alien shields, Patricia explained. and I figured out how to retrofit our ship weapons to fire similar ammunition. Admiral Patterson felt hope growing in her chest. If human starships could use the new technology, they might actually be able to fight the alien fleet on equal terms. The Zephyrian fleet approached Earth like a swarm of deadly stars. 50 warships, each one massive and glowing with alien energy, moved in perfect formation toward humanity's homeworld. On the bridge of his flagship, High Commander Veltar watched the blue planet grow larger on his screens. "Final victory is within our grasp," Veltar announced to his officers. "Once Earth falls, the human pest will be eliminated forever." Sub-Commander Crix still looked worried about the recent human attacks, but he said nothing. The fleet was too committed to the assault to change plans now. Admiral Lisa Patterson watched the alien approach from her command ship hidden behind the moon. The human fleet looked pathetic compared to the alien armada. Only 37 ships remained from humanity's once proud navy, and most of those were damaged from previous battles, but every human ship now carried weapons that the aliens had never faced before. Dr. Hughes had worked miracles in the past. Weak, retrofitting their railguns and missile systems to fire cascade rounds at the alien fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Patterson," Lisa broadcast to her fleet. "Today, we find out if human determination can beat alien arrogance. Remember, they still think our weapons are harmless. Let's show them how wrong they are." Captain Jake Morrison sat on the bridge of the USS Liberty, which had been upgraded with the new weapon systems. His ship was no longer running and hiding. Today, it would fight. "Captain, the aliens are moving into attack formation," reported Lieutenant Amy Collins. "They're not even bothering to maintain defensive positions." Jake smiled grimly. The aliens were so confident in their shields that they were approaching Earth like they were on parade. That overconfidence would be their downfall on Earth's surface. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez prepared his ground forces for the final battle. Every soldier now carried rifles loaded with cascade rounds. After months of helpless retreat, the human military was finally ready to fight back. "Remember what we learned?" Danny told his troops over the radio. "Their shields will fail after 3 or 4 hits. Once the shields are down, they're just as vulnerable as we are." Dr. Patricia Hughes watched the battle preparations from her command bunker deep underground. She had done everything she could to give humanity a fighting chance. Now it was up to the soldiers and sailors to prove that human ingenuity could triumph over alien technology. The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet entered Earth's orbit. Veltar ordered his ships to take positions above major cities and prepare for orbital bombardment. He expected the humans to surrender once they saw the hopelessness of their situation. Instead, Admiral Patterson gave the order to attack. "All ships open fire with cascade rounds," she commanded. The human fleet emerged from behind the moon and launched everything they had. Thousands of modified missiles and railgun rounds flew toward the alien ships. Each projectile was programmed to explode into fragments just before hitting the Zephyrian shields. The effect was immediate and shocking. Alien shields that had never failed before began flickering and sparking as fragment clouds overwhelmed their processing systems. Ship after ship found their defenses collapsing under the cascade of impacts. "Impossible," Veltar gasped as he watched his fleet's shields failing. "How are they doing this?" "Commander, our shields are being overloaded," Crix reported in panic. "The human projectiles are creating interference patterns we cannot compensate for." But the aliens were not helpless. Once their shields failed, they still had powerful energy weapons and superior armor. The battle turned into a brutal slugging match as both fleets hammered each other with everything they had. The human ship, USS Denver, took a direct hit from a plasma cannon and exploded in a ball of fire. The alien destroyer Sithkar lost its shields to a barrage of cascade rounds and was torn apart by follow-up missile strikes. "Their shields are staying down," Jake reported as the Liberty fired volley after volley at an alien cruiser. "The cascade rounds are working perfectly." Admiral Patterson felt fierce joy as she watched alien ships burning in space. For the first time since the war began, humans were winning a major battle, but Veltar was not finished. He ordered his remaining ships to focus their fire on Earth's surface. trying to destroy human cities before his fleet was completely defeated. "All ships protect the planet," Patterson commanded. "Don't let them reach the surface." The human fleet threw itself between the aliens and Earth. Ships that were already damaged continued fighting even as their hulls cracked and their systems failed. The crew of the battleship USS Texas kept firing their guns even after their bridge was destroyed by plasma fire. On Earth, the battle was just as desperate. Alien dropships that had made it through the space battle landed in major cities around the world. Zephyrian soldiers poured out, their shields glowing as they prepared to massacre the human population. But this time, the humans were ready. Danny Rodriguez led the defense of New York City. As alien soldiers advanced through the streets, his Marines opened fire with their cascade-round rifles. The aliens' personal shields flickered and failed, just like their ship shields had done. "Their shields are down," Danny shouted. "Finish them with conventional weapons." Human soldiers who had been helpless for months suddenly found themselves on equal footing with their alien enemies. Without their shields, the Zephyrians were tough but not invincible. Their plasma rifles were powerful, but human bullets and grenades could hurt them now. The fighting was fierce and brutal. Corporal Mike Stevens died taking out an alien squad leader with a grenade. Private Jenny Walsh held a city block against 6 aliens until reinforcements arrived. Sergeant Tony Martinez led a charge that captured an alien command post, but slowly, steadily, the humans began to win. In space, the battle was reaching its climax. Half the alien fleet was destroyed or disabled, but they had taken a terrible toll on the human ships. Admiral Patterson's flagship was burning and listing to one side. Veltar made a desperate decision. He ordered his remaining ships to ram the human fleet in suicide attacks. If the Zephyrians were going to lose, they would take as many humans with them as possible. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Patterson commanded. "Don't let them ram you," but some alien ships got through. The USS Freedom took a direct hit from a dying alien cruiser and both ships exploded together. The USS Liberty barely avoided a collision. That would have killed Jake and his entire crew. In the end, human numbers and determination won the day. The last alien ship was destroyed by concentrated fire from 6 human vessels. Sub-Commander Crix died when his ship's bridge was hit by cascade rounds. High Commander Veltar survived long enough to send one final message to his homeworld before his flagship exploded. "The humans have found a way to defeat our shields," Veltar transmitted. "Do not underestimate them as we did. They are more dangerous than we believed." On Earth's surface, the last alien soldiers were being hunted down by human forces. Without air support or reinforcements, the Zephyrian ground troops were quickly overwhelmed. Many tried to surrender, but communication problems and human anger made prisoner-taking difficult. Danny Rodriguez found himself face-to-face with an alien officer whose shield had failed. The alien raised its hands in what might have been surrender. "This is for everyone who died," Danny said, and pulled the trigger. The war was over. Humanity had won, but at a terrible cost. Half of Earth's major cities lay in ruins. Billions of people were dead or homeless. The human fleet was reduced to a handful of damaged ships, but they had proven something that would echo across the galaxy. Advanced technology could be defeated by determination, ingenuity, and the willingness to adapt. The aliens had laughed at human bullets, calling them primitive and useless. They were not laughing anymore. Dr. Patricia Hughes stood in the ruins of Washington, D.C., watching smoke rise from the destroyed alien ships scattered across the landscape. A Zephyrian scientist who had survived the battle approached her under a white flag. "How did you do it?" The alien asked through a translation device. "Our shields were perfect. They stopped every weapon your species had ever created." Patricia looked at the alien with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. "Your shields were designed to stop the weapons you expected us to use. But we didn't try to match your technology. We found a way around it." But your projectile weapons are so primitive," the alien scientist protested. "How could simple bullets defeat our advanced defenses?" Patricia smiled. "That's exactly why they worked. Your shields were programmed to handle sophisticated attacks. They couldn't process something as simple as metal fragments hitting at random angles. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. The alien scientist looked confused and defeated. Its entire worldview had been shattered by humanity's victory. Captain Jake Morrison approached and put his hand on Patricia's shoulder. The remaining alien ships are requesting permission to leave the solar system, he reported. What should we tell them? Patricia looked up at the sky where alien ships were burning like falling stars. Tell them they can go. But also tell them this: the next time anyone laughs at human weapons, remind them what happened here today. The Zephyrian scientist nodded slowly and walked away. Its people had learned the hard way that technological superiority meant nothing without the wisdom to use it properly.